Well, hello again. Seeing as how we are now officially 50% complete with 2026, and I have also officially finished 10 2026 eligible games as far as the way that the stage select counts eligibility, which is anything released after Thanksgiving of the previous year to Thanksgiving of the current year. So anything that came out after Thanksgiving of 2025 is eligible for our consideration. And actually, one of the games on my list so far is uh, or does fall into that criteria. But this is kind of like a little special thing for YouTube because I usually on the podcast don't like to play my hand before we get to game of the year. And also, we're so far away from those discussions that will absolutely change drastically by the time that we get to our good old fashioned deliberations. But without further ado, number 10 on my list is actually the only game on this list that I don't like, but it's the 10th game of the year that I finished, which is Mixtape. Uh, did a video on not so much about my feelings on it, but more about the discussion around it. Uh, I think it's gorgeous. I think the soundtrack is great. I think some of the set pieces are really awesome. I really push back on the whole, oh, it's not really a video game. Bullshit. No, it's actually a really fun video game. I just think that the writing is pretty trash. And I think uh, most of the characters suck, especially the main character. She's one of my least favorite protagonists or actually characters rather. Like I put her up there with 9S from Nier Automata and Atreus from the recent God of War games. It's just like someone that I just do not want to spend any time with in a video game. So this will fall off very quickly. There's only one other 2026 game that I finished, and this is a whole lot better than Legacy of Kain Ascension, let me tell you. Number 9 is Metroid Prime 4 Echoes. Echoes? I don't even I don't I don't even remember what the subtitle is on this game. That's how much I remember of Metroid Prime 4. I think it's fine. I don't particularly care for it all that much. There's parts of it that I really like. I'm actually a bigger fan of the changes that they made to the formula than most people are. But then also just not a big fan of a lot of the way that it plays. Some of this, character stuff, some of the story stuff. Honestly, it's a pretty forgettable game for me. So in this moment, because I'm not scripted or anything like that, I can't honestly remember what about it I ultimately had problems with. I just know that I didn't care for it all that much, and will never touch it again, never, and probably never think about it again uh, after the end of this year. Number 8 is a game that uh, really enjoy in a vacuum and really have problems with when taken as a whole with the rest of the series, which is Life is Strange Reunion. One of the first videos that I did for this channel, like with me just yapping at the camera like this, was about how I believe that the core premise of that first game was learning to let go, and that Chloe represented that in a what I felt was a pretty obvious way. Clearly not, because so many people just reject that ending wholesale. And well, now all your belly aching got you what you wanted. Now you have your happy, like your mega happy ending from Wayne's World. You go off into the sunset ending. I think it's cheap. I think it's lazy. As far as writing goes, I don't think that the game is lazy. Um, but I think it's still well written. I think it's still the characters are great. It ties into the previous game, Double Exposure, really well. Like it's a nice bookend to it. Just personally, I didn't need this game to exist, but I still ultimately enjoyed it. Number 7 is kind of a dark horse on here. Marvel Cosmic Invasion, which it's just a really fun bog standard beat 'em up. It's not doing anything all that special other than it's got like a pretty fun combo system. There's more to do than in Streets of Rage 4, which I felt was way played it way too safe and didn't really move the needle forward as far as like giving you interesting things to do. Now, I played it when it was new. I know they've added a bunch to it since then, so maybe it's better now. But I was ultimately pretty bored with Streets of Rage 4, and I believe this is the same development team. And I like this quite a bit more. Got some problems with like the choice in the roster, but that's kind of just me. Anytime that certain characters go into space that I feel shouldn't go into space, Spider-Man and Wolverine. But I understand why they're there because they're so popular. But fun little game. I'm looking forward to jumping back into it once they finish adding like all the characters that they're gonna add. They've already like added a couple. I just want to see like how many more get added before I dive back in and play through it a couple more times. Number 6 is actually one that I'm surprised is so high up on this list so far, but kind of looking back at where we're at, I kind of understand. Terminator 2D, No Fate, which is a very breezy kind of throwback, not to like 16-bit like console era. I'm pretty worn out on people trying to emulate 16-bit console games. This is very specifically trying to emulate like mid 90s arcade games. And if you remember like arcade games that were based on movie properties in particular, they were pretty interesting because they would try to be as faithful as possible to the source material while also understanding that they had to embellish here and there to make things more interesting. And so you do have levels in Terminator 2D that are super short because it's like, yeah, we're just recreating the chase on the motorcycle from the T1000 in the big rig truck, right? It's a very fast level, but it happened in the movie, so it happens in the game. There's a stealth level where Sarah Connor is breaking out of the sanitarium that she's in. It's also very short, but it's fun. And it's actually a game that I ended up like trying to like perfect basically. Like I was really going for score attack and trying to get I knew that I wasn't skilled enough to get the platinum, but man, I because you can beat this game in about an hour, and I probably put like 12 hours into it. Like I ran through it quite a few times, which I normally don't do with arcade style games, but really enjoyed Terminator 2D, No Fate. And now into the top 5. Number 5 is Vital Shell. uh, I'm also not a big fan of people trying to emulate PlayStation 1 3D aesthetics. I don't have any like nostalgia for that. It's one of those things where even at the time, like as soon as the PlayStation 2 came out, I found it very difficult to revisit PS1 games. I remember replaying Metal Gear Solid 1 before Metal Gear Solid 2 came out, and I popped it in my PlayStation. I was like, oh man, it looks terrible now. So I don't need to go back to that look. I that there's a reason why I prefer that PS1 games get remade over, PS2 and later. Uh but having said that, Vital Shell is like a fun uh mashup of Armored Core and actually more Frame Grind if you're an importer. Uh Combined with like a Vampire Survivors like, auto shooter type thing. It's a lot of fun. It's not one that I ultimately stuck with to like wring every bit out of, but I did like finish the game and played it multiple times with different characters. So really enjoyed it. If they continue to add to it, I'll definitely take another look. But so far, they haven't added as much as you would expect. Well, not. I mean, look, Punk will kind of they're a certain type of crazy, and so you can't really hold other games of a similar nature to that standard, right? It's just they set a way too high of a bar of expectation for these types of games. Speaking of Ponkle, actually, number 3, Vampire Crawlers, the dungeon crawling card based version of Vampire Survivors, which uh, seems really high on the list right now. But again, looking back on what I still have, what I've talked about so far, this is where it is. But I honestly expect like, oh no, I'm sorry. Oh, actually, sorry. Let me back up because I don't edit the shit out of these. Uh, Above Vital Shell in the number 4 spot is actually Dark Rites of Arkham. I jumped too far ahead, wanting to do a nice segue like the podcast, and I fucked up. The Dark Rites of Arkham is a really cool Lovecraftian pixel art point and click adventure game for PC that I played on my Steam Deck and really enjoyed. Has really good writing, excellent art. Uh, I like the setup for it. I'm not super well versed in Lovecraft stuff, but I know enough to get by. There were some moments that actually kind of, chilled me a little bit and creeped me out a little bit. And for the most part, I think the puzzles are good. There were definitely a couple parts, especially towards the end, where it just starts to bump up on chicken with a pulley in the middle type of puzzle solving. Not quite there, but definitely a couple places where it's like, oh, I wish that this had been highlighted a little bit better because I totally missed this small pixel sized item that I needed to pick up. Little things like that, but that's kind of par for the course with point and click adventure. Now we can talk about vampire crawlers, which does feel like it's too high on the list, but I fully expect that everything below this, and actually including I expect everything from 3 to 10 to fall off this list before the end of the year. Uh, like no problem. There's so many games that I'm super looking forward to for the rest of the year that these are definitely like kind of placeholdery right now. But I really did enjoy Vampire Crawlers. It was a thing where even though the game is pretty easy, at least at the start, it gets more challenging the deeper you go, which I do appreciate. It's almost like the inverse of Vampire Survivors in that respect, where uh, Vampire Survivors starts out super challenging and then gets like it becomes a breeze once you know what you need to do. There's like a nice middle ground in the like the mid game of Vampire Crawlers where it's like a nice challenge and then you break it and then it becomes like super easy again. But it was a thing where I couldn't put it down. I played it for like 2 weeks straight, could not stop, and got the platinum. And I think I'm good. I don't really feel the need to go back to it when they add content to it. I think I got my fill of Vampire Crawlers. Cool that it exists. Had a lot of fun playing it. Looking forward to see what they do next. Number 2 is a game that I like, but I don't love it the way that the rest of the internet does, which is Resident Evil Requiem. I think it does a lot of things really well. I think the grace parts are the best parts of the game. Really well paced, good scares, good action, good storytelling. I realized as I was playing this game that even though I used to be a huge fan of Resident Evil lore, and I still am, uh, I don't give two shits about the characters, especially Leon S. Kennedy. So all of his shit, as far as like his characterization and like the stuff that he's doing, don't really care for it. And there's a couple bits in there that I think is like some of the stupidest shit that I've seen in that series. But at the same time, I'm torn because some of the more open stuff that you get to do when you hit Raccoon City is something that I would like to see them explore further because it reminded me of The Evil Within 2, which is one of my favorite survival horror games of the last like 10 plus years. So it's a bit of a disjointed game for me. Like there's parts where I want to play it again, but then I think about certain sequences. I'm like, I don't really want to do that ever again, honestly. So that's kind of where I am with Requiem. Excellent game, but I'm not as high on it as everybody else. But my number one game, I think I'm actually higher on than everybody else, which is Pragmata. Now, don't get me wrong, people are very high on Pragmata, but for me, I honestly can't envision a scenario where anything tops this game for me in 2026. The moment that I like first started controlling Hugh in the demo, like the instant that I got control of him, I was like, "Oh, I love this. I love the way this feels. I love this gameplay loop. I love the controls. The hacking thing works infinitely better than I thought it would. I thought it was going to be like too much of like patting your stomach and rubbing your head at the same time or whatever that is. That I never, you know what I'm talking about. But no, it's very much a chocolate and peanut butter situation. I fell in love with the relationship between Hugh and Diana. I think as a person who doesn't like the way that robots are written in video games and also fucking hates kids, the fact that they were able to make me care and love a kid robot is a pretty incredible feat. Uh, I did everything in the main game and was going to go for the platinum, but didn't really care for the way that the hard mode was balanced. So I'm not going to do all of that. But what a freaking awesome video game! Cannot say enough great things about it. I have very few complaints, uh, and really not even worth mentioning here. It'll probably get. I'll have to mention them when we're really like getting into nitty gritty debates at Game of the Year because I'm sure I'll get a lot of pushback on where I'm going to want this to go on the list. But goddamn, Pragmata, what and knowing that Onimusha Way of the Sword is coming out this year, it's going to be crazy. Like based on that demo, there's a very good possibility there's 3 Capcom games on my top 10, and not just on my top 10 but like in my top 5, which is wild. You love to see it. But yeah, that's my top 10 for the first half of the year so far. Let me know where you're at so far, uh in the comments down below. You know, we gotta pump that engagement or whatever. It's fine if you don't want to. I'm bad at this. But yeah, I will see you on the next one. Bye.